Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. In the last part, we took care of Flannery over Lavaridge Town and then explored the desert portion of Route 111, adding a new Pokemon to our team in the meanwhile. With that said, at this point, they're not actively in my team yet, as this was part of the same recording session and I didn't want to do any super training for the Pokemon until after this recording session. With that said, on my way to our next destination, I was going back down Route 114 and found ourselves a Sapphire. This is the counterpart to Zangoose overall. Pure poison type, so it's weak to ground and psychic. For a single stage Pokemon, Sapphire has some really good attack stats that makes for a pretty good overall mixed attacker, and I think it has a decent enough moveset to back that up too. Big issue is, again, single stage, so whatever you reach with its potential here is what it's going to be at for its entire time you're using it. Ability-wise, it can have Shed Skin, which actively just gives it a pure chance at the end of any given turn to shed a status ailment off of itself. But its hidden ability that it can get is Infiltrator, which allows it to get past things like Reflect, Light Screen, etc. Anything that is that sort of move that works for an entire side of a Pokemon battle. Which has its uses, but I do prefer Shed Skin in that regard. Not a Pokemon I've used too many times. I think at most I maybe had it in a team for a little bit once over the years, but hey, I like it. So our next overall destination is back here at Rustboro City, as we did get a fossil last time, and we want to go wake that thing up. I'm researching Pokemon fossils here. You have a fossil, don't you? Shall I restore for you? Sure. Okay, then I'll turn that claw fossil back into a Pokemon for you. So the claw fossil that we got back in the desert, if you chose that one, gets reawoken into an Anorith, a rock bug type, meaning it is weak to rock, steel, and water. Anorith has pretty good speed and really good physical attack for a first stage Pokemon. And if you actively raise it and use it all the way through, you end up getting a really good physical attacker with some good physical defense and special defense to back it up as well. I like using this a lot. I've used this in a couple of Hoenn playthroughs over the years. It's honestly one of my favorite fossil Pokemon design-wise, too. If you actively chose the root fossil, you'd get Lileep here, which is a rock grass type. Meaning it was weak to fighting, bug, steel, and ice. That's the more defensively minded overall of the two, and they're still overall a really good line. Ability-wise, the Anorith line can have Battle Armor, which prevents critical hits, and Swift Swim, which raises its speed and rain. Meanwhile, Lileep's line overall will have either Suction Cups or Storm Drain. Suction Cups actively prevents a Pokemon from being forced out of battle with something like Roar. Meanwhile, Storm Drain draws any water-type attacks used in battle over to it to raise its special attack stat, which means you can actively get a pretty good attacker out of Lileep's line if you actively have a water-type alongside you or going up against water-types yourself. Either way, for right now, we're back in Granite Cave. Why? Well, while our next destination is actively Petalburg City, I figured I'd do a little loop and do some extra cleaning up along the way. And because now that we have a Mach Bike, I can explore the deeper sections of Granite Cave and get some items along the way. This is where you could actively grab Aaron, if you wanted one of them for your line, the Steel Rock type. And again, I really like that line. If you are looking for a good defender or attacker, that's a pretty good one to go for. Now, I've talked a bit about my first playthrough of this game here and again, but I'll always remember just being really confused at the fact they actively changed Granite Cave into being what's ultimately an optional dungeon outside of the first little bit for when you have to go talk to Steven the first time. I just think it's a really weird omission. Mind you, the dungeon was already kind of a weird pacing thing to begin with in Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, but it was so short that in retrospect, it really didn't even make that big of an impact. If anything, it made for pretty good team arrangement because you can get some good Pokemon in here pretty quickly on the lower floors. I guess in a way you could look at it as them trying to snap up the pace of Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby in general, which they do a good job of on the whole. But then there's the weird changes here and again that kind of feel like they're either counter to that or just make there be less interesting game bits to begin with as well, as we'll talk about as we go on. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I think, are the way I prefer to play Gen 3, but I won't lie, there are some omissions that are just very bizarre to me. Right here, though, we got three specific items. We got the TM for Shadow Claw, an Everstone, and the Steel Excite. Let's go through those in order. Shadow Claw as a move does decent damage, but the main thing with it is that it has a higher crit hit ratio, which if you especially like using dire hits or things like that, can be a pretty good Dark-type move to have around. The Everstone is a held item that when held by a Pokemon, actively prevents them from evolving under any circumstance. Even if you try to use a stone on them, it just will not work. Meanwhile, Steel Excite, get this, allows you to Mega Evolve the Steelix Pokemon into Mega Steelix, which I will probably go into more depth about later on, because I genuinely do not remember if we encounter a Steelix in this footage. Because I've only edited through part 20 at this point. I'm generally taking this LP at like 10 parts at a time, then commentate 5, edit 5, further, all that jazz. So I don't quite remember. I know we end up seeing a good chunk of the game's overall Pokedex throughout this LP, but I genuinely do not remember if we actively see a Steelix. So for now, moving on. With that said, the Steelix item is probably the most interesting item you can grab here in ORAS, if only because it gives you a good reason to come down here outside of catching Pokemon, because that is one of my effective goals in this LP, if I've not talked about this already. It's doing all the side quests, showcasing all the areas, catching all the legendaries, which we'll talk about when we actually first see a legendary, as well as get as many of the key items as I can, or unique items like the Mega Stones. I say as many as I can because without doing very specific cheat code usage on this playthrough, there's one item I just cannot get no matter what. And trust me, I actively tried to do that because it would be in line with what I did in my Fire Red and Soul Silver Let's Plays. But it didn't work out, if only because of the timing of me doing this LP in one regard or another. But I'll talk more about that way later in the LP. With that, though, we're actively already done in Granite Cave, so right now I'm going to showcase a couple of places that I like to use to hatch eggs in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. There's one place that's technically overall better, but we're not going to be able to talk about that until the post-game. Namely, I like to either go back and forth between these parts of Route 112 and Route 111, or just go all the way through Route 117 over to Verdant Turf Town, back to Mauville, and back and forth. You can even go all the way through Mauville, all the way to the east side of it, but I think with the load times, that gets a little bit more tedious. Why am I doing this? Because I want to hatch that egg we got back in Lavaridge. And the thing about hatching eggs, even if you have a Pokemon with Flame Body, it's all about running down egg cycles by taking a certain amount of steps. And this takes a while. I think I was doing this for about 20 minutes because I didn't have something with Flame Body. And this specific egg, I think in general, has a pretty high step count for it to hatch. But I'm doing this just so I can get it out of my party and move on, because I want to have something else in that slot in the relatively near future. Hatching eggs is a whole ordeal when it comes to breeding your own Pokemon and trying to get like the best version of a Pokemon for whatever team you want to do. And I respect people who can do it. It's not for me. I think at most I've hatched maybe less than 100 eggs over my years, and some of those are just trying to get one Pokemon from a baby form over another. And it's kind of tedious, I won't lie. But hey, if you can do it over and over again, more power to you. With that said, there's definitely easier places to do it in some games than others. I think I even cut some of the footage out there. But eventually, you'll get a text box saying, "Oh," and the egg will hatch. While Pokemon eggs you actively breed yourself will either be one of the two parents, or one parent in case you're using a Ditto, eggs you get from random people across the world will always have the same thing. In this case, we have a Wynot. This is a baby form of Wobbuffet they added into Gen 3. It is a pure Psychic type, meaning it is weak to Bug, Ghost, and Dark. It's not got a lot, most of its stats. It's got higher defenses than it does attack, but it overall has a focus on HP, which does carry into its evolution, admittedly, because Wobbuffet has absurd HP on the whole. Ability-wise, it can either have Shadow Tag or Telepathy. Telepathy effectively allows it to dodge attacks from partner Pokemon in doubles and all that jazz, whereas Shadow Tag prevents foes from escaping in battle. It's a pretty easy way to get a Wynot, because Wynot's a kind of annoying Pokemon to get normally, in that it's one of the few Pokemon where, because it's a baby form added in later, you need to breed the parent Pokemon while it's holding a specific item. Notably, if you wanted to get a Wynot normally, you would have to breed a Wobbuffet while it's holding a Lax Incense, which isn't the hardest thing, but it's definitely a little annoying to remember. Do you want to go back together? Back to Petalburg? Aye aye, let's hit the road then. Welcome back to Petalburg. We haven't been here since, what, part 2 at this point? Well, we made it. The Petalburg City Gym. Good luck on taking on the gym leader, Kyle. I'm cheering for you. Later. So we can now go tackle our father's gym finally, and I, as usual, end a recording session with entering or exiting a place, as at this point I have now super trained Kenny and gotten him into my team. So with that, we finally have 2/3 of our end goal team more or less ready to go as long as we get the levels going. Starting off, Kenny's moveset isn't that much to write home about, though having Dig this early is pretty nice. But his moveset will get better as we go on, to say the least. As for the super training with Kenny, I went all in on this Pokemon line's strengths and made them even stronger, so his attack and speed have been entirely focused on. Which honestly is what I probably should have done with Blaze as well, as I've already mentioned, but oh well. Yo, how's it going, Chantabee Kyle? The doors to this gym open when you beat the awaiting trainers. Whoops, the doors in this room are already open, so don't attack me. The trainers at Petalburg Gym use all kinds of items. The door at the left leads to the speed room. The door at the right leads to the accuracy room. The room's name will be on the door, so choose carefully. Once you've chosen the door, well, hey, go for it. Petalburg Gym's gimmick's a little bit interesting in that it's effectively just a diamond shape of rooms that have 2 rooms each that you can lead into from the next. And there's 1 trainer at each, so you're guaranteed to fight at least 3 trainers in here no matter what. The focus of this gym largely is normal type Pokemon, but it's normal type Pokemon where the trainers will actively use battle use items like X attacks, X defends, dire hits, all items like that really. To both showcase how certain movesets can work out, but how using a battle item can go a long way, especially if you're prepared for it. With that said, it definitely can lead to this gym feeling kind of one note because most of the battles are 1 Pokemon at a time and all that. Well, that said, we do have a new Pokemon here. This is Delcatty. This evolves from Skitty when you use a Moonstone on it. Pure normal type, so it's weak to fighting, immune to Ghost. For being a second stage Pokemon, while this has a good moveset, its stats aren't the greatest, though it did get a buff in Gen 7 to its speed. If you're using this, you're using it for its learn set potential or its abilities like Cute Charm, which infatuates on contact, as we talked about before, Normalize, which makes it so that any moves it use become normal type, meaning they can be used against Pokemon that they're usually not effective against. Or its hidden ability is Wonder Skin, which makes it so that any status moves used against it are much more likely to miss. I think it drops it by 50%, which, given how many moves used in competitive movesets are status moves used against you, that can go a real long way. With that said, respect to Delcatty. While I don't like it in the main games, Skitty and Delcatty are nuts in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, just in general. How you want to handle this gym largely depends on the type of player you are, I think. I like to get as much experience as I can, so I'm going for every single room. Some people will only want to do the minimum, of course. But one thing I should note is that you should also keep in mind what type of attack boosts or stat boosts are going to happen in the room, and keep that in mind against what your team's stats are. For instance, in the attack room, you might want to bring in something that's got some higher physical defense. In a specially minded room, you might want to bring in something a little more special defense. Or inverse that, defense room, you might want to bring in something that's a little more special attack minded and all that jazz. Of course, that doesn't account for the potential immunity some of the Pokemon might have to your moves, but at this point, since this is mostly going to be normal types, the only moves that you're not going to be able to hit them with is Ghost type, and while you can have a Ghost type or 2 by this point, most notably Sableye in my memory, you're probably not going to have a lot of Ghost type moves that you won't be able to use here. I wouldn't say those become more common until after the 6th gym or so. With that said, while I am going after every single trainer, I should note once I clear the 3 I'm required to fight, since the rest are optional, I do completely cut them out unless there's a new Pokemon, and off the top of my head, I don't think we see a new Pokemon in this gym again until we actively go up against Norman at the end of it all, so, I do remember being in this specific fight with this Zangoose for a little bit, though, and I think it was just because I was being very silly about things. Worth noting here, Zangoose is actually the second case of this in this LP where I actively wrote the Pokemon down as encountering for the first time in 2 separate parts, because I guess the Control F of Microsoft Word wasn't really working that well for me that day for some reason. Because the way I actively keep track of what Pokemon we've seen or not is I just put a part number, and then I list the new Pokemon we saw in that part. And if I am not sure if I saw something before, I just search for it in the notes already. Zangoose and Cacnea, I've accidentally messed up on that so far on. Whoopsie. So you did get 4 gym badges. Then as I promised, we will have a Pokemon battle. Kind of wish they did cutscenes like that more often for the other gym leaders, because they don't do it too often here. I like when they give the gym leaders a little more personality, which I feel like they only got better about largely as the games went, especially when they started getting a little more story prevalent, especially in the case of like Gen 5, of course. Mind you, in general, I feel like the gym leaders tend to get more personality in the anime, but that's largely because either they'll show up multiple times or they're the focus of a 1 to 2 episode long arc, maybe even 3 episodes. Although on that note, can I even remember who my favorite gym leader was in the Pokemon anime? I don't think I can actually make a good judgment on that even thinking on it, because I don't think I ever really watched much of the anime past Sinnoh. Outside of the occasional episode here and there. I've meant to sit down and just marathon it all. but every time I've tried, and I may have talked about this in my prior Pokemon LPs, and maybe even this one before, commentary for these takes a while, so sorry if I repeat things like this. I get to the end of Johto, and the moment that the Blaziken shows up and Ash gets on that ferry to head to Hoenn, I just drop it. I'm not sure if it's just a burnout or what, but it's so eerily consistent. Mind you, that is like, what, close to 200-something episodes at that point, so I just need to figure out other things to watch alongside it so I don't just drain my energy all on one show at once. Thoughts for later. And if my memory and the timeline suggestion is anything to go off of, that was our last gym trainer here, so it's time for us to head back and heal, and then come on back to the whole back of the gym to finally take care of good old Dad. He's only been taunting us as being a gym leader we can fight since, what, part 1? Kyle. It makes me happier that I can really describe being able to have a real battle with my own son like this. But a battle is a battle. I will do everything within my power as a gym leader to win. You better give it your best shot too, Kyle. Norman being a normal type gym leader might make you think he's going to be pretty easy to deal with, but you'd be surprised how tanky his team can get very quickly. Starting off, he's going to throw out his first Slacking, because he actually has 2 of these things. Truant for its ability, Retaliate, Yawn, Fate Attack, and Encore. Slacking's name might seem a little bit reminiscent of something else, and there's good reason for that. This is the final evolution of Slackoth. It evolves from Vigoroth at level 36. Thus, I actively am getting one of these to my team eventually through Boomba. Pure normal type, so it's weak to fighting and ghost, and it has the Truant ability just like Slackoth, so it'll only move every other turn, which might sound really bad, but trust me, it's worth that ability because Slacking has nuts HP stats, nuts physical attack stat, really good speed and defense, and its special attack isn't anything to laugh at either. Its only real weakness outside of Truant is its special defense stat. The real trick with Slacking is you need to work with Truant, not have it work against you. In specific, it's really good to have moves like Giga Impact or other moves that need a turn of recharge after use, because you're not going to be attacking on that turn anyway because of how Truant works. On top of that, there's a very specific move introduced in Gen 3 called Skill Swap. I don't take advantage of this in this playthrough, but a very strong strategy to use with a Slacking is to put it in a doubles battle with a Pokemon that knows Skill Swap that can otherwise work in support, doing things like Helping Hand and all that, and swapping its ability with Slacking so Slacking can just move every turn. It becomes an almost unstoppable beast. I love Slacking. I'm going to use it on my team by the end game for a very good reason. It's just a very powerful Pokemon to have around, even with that ability. With that said, with his first Slacking out of the way, Norman now throws out his Vigoroth, Vital Spirit for its ability, Encore, Fate Attack, Retaliate, and Fury Swipes. Vital Spirit, of course, preventing it from falling asleep. Retaliate is actively the move we're going to get as a TM from Norman at the end of this battle. The way that one works is that its power doubles if it's used the turn after a Pokemon on the same party faints. So, using that as a starting move when you first throw out a Pokemon, if you just had one get knocked out, is a really powerful opener. Worth noting, and I actively just went to go make sure I actually had the data right on this. In the original Gen 3, he gave you a different TM, namely the one for Facade. The way Facade works is pretty similar. Its power is doubled under certain circumstances. Notably, if the Pokemon using it is either poisoned, burned, or paralyzed, its power is doubled from 70 to 140. The only issue with that was, until actively Gen 6 here that we're currently playing, that move wasn't exactly great because the thing about the burn status ailment specifically is that it cuts the physical attack stat of the Pokemon with that status in half. Facade didn't ignore that until Gen 6, meaning it wasn't exactly great, but oh well. With that said, I honestly do prefer Retaliate. For his final Pokemon, Norman throws out his second Slacking. Still has Truant for its ability, Retaliate, Feint Attack, Swagger, and Chip Away. Chip Away is a little interesting. The way it works is that it actively ignores any changes, be they positive or negative, to the attack or defense of the target. But what's more interesting about it is that off the top of my head, I think it's the first move I've talked about where it actively got removed in later generations, off the top of my head. Several pretty well-known and classic Pokemon moves were actively removed from the game starting in Gen 8. And I'm assuming it was maybe some part of like a balancing sweep they went through the move pool for and all that, on top of the fact that that was when the whole Dexit stuff happened back with Galar, which I personally never minded too much myself because I figured catching 1,000 Pokemon would just get tedious in every single game, but That's just my take on it. I'm here to catch only about 400 per regional Pokedex anyway, so I'm kind of an outlier in that regard. That's Norman, though. Not the hardest gym leader, but if you're not careful, his slackings can bring on the punishment, because, get this, slacking, while it can only move every other turn, is really, really powerful. If anything, a very good way to really get around slackings, though, is to hit them with Paralyze if you have a way to do that, be it through the static ability. Thunder Wave is a good option for that, because them only having a 50% chance of moving on the one turn they get to every 2 turns goes a long way. Impossible. I can't believe it. I lost to Kyle. You've come this far. That's how it is, then. I will give you this. 5 down, only 3 to go. We're getting there in the Hoenn League. Having that badge will ensure that Pokemon up to level 60 will obey you, even if you receive them in trades. Pokemon that know the HM move Surf will also be able to travel over water now. And this is my gift to you, Kyle. I'm sure you'll be able to use it well. And we get the Retaliate TM, like I already mentioned. This is a pretty good one to have around on a lot of teams. Retaliate will allow you to take revenge for a fallen team member. Its power will be doubled if you have a Pokemon use it in the very next move after an ally faints. I hope you and your Pokemon will be diligent enough to use it wisely. As the gym leader, I can't express how frustrated I am. But as a father, it makes me both happy and a little sad. It's odd. Come on, Kyle. I'll see you on your way. Let's get out of here. Oh, hey! Kyle, Mr. Norman. Haven't seen the two of you in some time. What a coincidence. I just came back to my parents' house to grab something I'd forgotten. Looks like you've been working hard, Wally. It's clear even without a battle. Really? You think so? Thank you. That's so nice of you to say. As you can see, Wally's health has thoroughly improved. It's all thanks to you and your father. You two helped Wally catch his first Pokemon that day. It's because of you that he has a partner of his own now. That partner is why he's grown so strong. That's my firm belief, so I thank you. Oh, yes, that's it. Sometimes words aren't enough. It would delight me if you'd take this. And we finally get the HM for Surf, my beloved. If you're cleared to use Surf outside of battle, you'll be able to cross seas with your Pokemon. Kyle, considering how much you and Wally have grown, you should be able to handle what lies beyond the sea on Route 118 now. There are far stronger Pokemon and trainers waiting for you on Hoenn's east coast. Continue your journey and your adventures there. I know you'll do your best. Yes, sir. I'll do my best to become as strong as Kyle, sir. I guess I'd better start out then. I'm off for now, Dad. See you next time. Come on, Kyle. Let's go together. Wally, I look forward to seeing you and your Pokemon grow stronger together. Kyle, well, take care of yourself out there. Don't forget to drop by Little Root to visit your mother from time to time. Okay, we're off. Be safe out there. Learn a lot. I don't know what it is, but seeing my little boy all grown up and going off on his own. As a father, it makes me happy and a little sad. What a coincidence. I caught myself thinking the same thing. Oh, is that so? But if only my boy keeps growing strong and healthy like that, I wouldn't ask for anything else. Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Mr. Norman told us to keep going beyond Route 118, didn't he? Let me check my area nav. Route 118 is the one east of Mauville City, huh? Kyle, since we're both here anyway, let's go to Mauville together. I'm definitely planning on going to check out Route 118 like your dad said. This is one of the few active forced fast travel instances they added to Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Huh. It's actually pretty far, isn't it, all the way here to Mauville? So that must be Route 118 ahead. I wonder what kind of Pokemon I'll meet there. I can't wait to find out. I'll see you later, Kyle. I'm going straight to Route 118. Let's definitely have a battle next time we meet. It's a promise, okay? And you can't break a promise. So with that, we now have Surf and can check out the entire eastern chunk of Hoenn. Surf is generally just a high-powered special attack using water-type move, but outside of singles and one other specific battle type, it can be a bit haphazard. It'll hit the two opponents in front of the user, but in double battles, triple battles, or even multi-battles, it'll also hit the other Pokemon on your side. The only way around this is either certain abilities or items that absorb water-type attacks or prevent friendly fire. So it can be a little haphazard, but for singles, which is what most of the campaign is, it's one of the best water-type moves in the game. On top of that, as they already mentioned, we can use it to surf across water bodies to reach other items in other parts of the region. And while we are due to head to Route 118 to use it to progress on, I'm gonna go through prior areas of the game over the next part or two, just to go collect items we haven't been able to grab yet. This also means we can now fully explore the routes on the way to and from Dewford in a way that's not just using Mr. Briny's boat. So we're gonna forsake progress for a little bit here in lieu of me grabbing items, seeing other Pokemon, getting to other areas and all that. So forgive me if I get a little carried away in doing this over the next couple of parts. I want to say we're done with it by part 15, but don't quote me on that, because I edited this specific video like 2 weeks ago, like I mentioned, so some of my memory on that's a little bit iffy. Starting off, I do want to check out Route 115, though, because now that we have Surf, we can access the entire fullest northern portion of it, allowing us to get most of the items that are actually on this route, on top of fight a few new Pokemon trainers that don't have any new Pokemon for us themselves, but hey, it's worth noting all the same. One of the more common things up here as well is a lot of secret base spots, which I want to say in my memory some of the harder to reach secret base spots are usually either more expansive or have more interesting features going on, like since I'm not really using the secret base stuff throughout this LP, there's like boards you need to buy from a specific place to cover up certain holes to make little bridges. There's some that are actively 2 floors. You need to use a very specific stairs decoration to actually reach the 2nd floor. The customization you can do with the secret bases is honestly kind of fun. With that said, for this specific LP, it's just not something I can really focus on. Whenever I get to Platinum, I'll be able to do a little bit more with a very similar mechanic that's in the Underground over in Sinnoh. If only because I'll have more ways to actually access multiplayer. Getting a little ahead of ourselves. In that regard, I do think, I'm trying to think, like, what is my favorite generation of Pokemon for the multiplayer potentials of it? I remember really liking Gen 6 when it was new, especially Oras here, if only because I enjoyed playing with my buddy Scott. The way that our high school worked was that seniors often got the final period of the day just as a study period. And if you had one of those, you could just leave early. The school was fine with that. But what we often did was we would just stay in the cafeteria and either play Pokemon, be it Gen 6. I don't think Gen 7 was out by that point, but we definitely did XY and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. We played Four Swords, the GBA game, when it got that remaster for 3DS, I think eShop, or was that DSiWare first? I forget exactly which one of those came first. But outside of that, like, I'm trying to think, like, Gen 4, not for nothing, had some decent multiplayer stuff. Gen 5 had some really cool options here and again, if memory serves. I don't think I've really done much multiplayer since then, though. I feel like Gen 8, I did quite a few battles with friends when it was new, and we traded back and forth to help each other complete our regional Pokedexes. Same with Scarlet and Violet. But I've never really done much with battles at that point. I think when it came to like multiplayer battling and all that, Gen 6 and Gen 5 were probably where I did the most. And even then, pretty small time compared to some other players. Very small time in that regard, even. One more thing we want to grab here on Route 104 as we're going across my little Surf Chronicle. If we head back towards the flower shop now, there's a little girl in front of it. If you talk to her, she'll give you a white herb. White herbs are sort of like berries in that they're actively consumed when used in battle, but what they actively do is that if any of the holders' stats are reduced beyond their starting point in terms of the -6 +6 stages, it restores all of them back to neutral. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 14, we're going to continue our little surfing chronicle across the western half of Hoenn, before I think getting close enough to the point where we'll actively head on towards Route 118. See you guys then.